In many states, fragmented market platforms and resistance to open market reforms limit farmers' ability to capture value from higher yields and discourage investments in technologies that raise quality or reduce post-harvest loss. This session will explore the systemic gaps, the policy bottlenecks, the enforcement mechanisms, supply chain issues, and environmental concerns while proposing sustainable, tech-enabled, and farmer-centric pathways forward. I request everybody to please be seated. Please welcome on stage our moderator for this session. Please give a round of applause and welcome Mr. Hemendra Mathur, co-founder, ThinkAg and venture partner, Bharat Innovation Fund. He's a veteran investor with over 25 years of experience in venture capital, private equity, consulting, and AgriTech, who backs early-stage deep tech startups in agriculture and food value chains. Please welcome on stage our speakers in this session. Please welcome Mr. Jinesh Shah, Managing Director, Omnivore. Please give a round of applause and welcome on stage Mr. Jinesh Shah. Please welcome Dr. Y. Haragopal, Managing Director, NABCONS. Please welcome Mr. Onkar Pandey, Director, Livelihood and Prosperity, Social Alpha. Please welcome Mr. Gaurav Sisodia, Vice President, Invest India. Mr. Avi Jain, Co-founder, Agrim. And Mr. N.G. Lakshman Narayan, Deputy General Manager, Business Development and PP, National Research Development Corporation. Please give a round of applause to all our speakers on stage. I request Mr. Hemendra Mathur to take over the reins and take this discussion forward.
Good afternoon. It's a post-lunch session and it's the last session. So we have a task cut out to keep you awake and interested. But we got a fantastic panel on a very important topic and very good set of participants, including investors, policymakers, startups. So there's a lot to discuss. We have about 45 minutes. One of the panelists, Jinesh, also has to catch his flight. So we'll make sure we'll try and finish on time. Okay, so introductions are done. I won't go again. I think all the people sitting on the stage are well known. So we should deep dive into questions directly. So maybe Jinesh, I can start with you. Jinesh is one of the partners with Omnivore. I'm sure most of you know, one of the most active fund in the sector and one of the oldest fund in the sector. You've been investing in AgriTech for over a decade now, right? So just talk about what has changed and what are the emerging trends in the AgriTech space of late.
Sure, thanks Hemendra, and thank you SOGM for inviting me for the event. Look, I think with the last 14 years, things in AgriTech has really changed, right? I mean, the way AgriTech was initially looked at was people used to look at something which was very, very exotic. Over a period of time, that has become fairly part of the ecosystem. The companies also, the entrepreneurs also have changed, right? And when we started out, AgriTech was all about trying to make products or specific point solutions. But nowadays, AgriTech is all about working with the ecosystem, creating large agribusinesses, whether it's connecting to farmers or working on new age technologies or trying to bring platforms which the private sector and the government had not done those for many years, right? So AgriTech is trying to fill up those gaps, what it is. I think when we started out, it was all about saying, can I make the better seeds or better chemicals or better point solutions, whether it's IT solutions or biotech. But now it's all about platforms. It's all about saying, can I solve ecosystem problems? Can I bring a cold chain in the country? Can I solve the irrigation problem, which used to be with drip tech or any other flood irrigation, now is using, can I use solar energy to solve the problem? Can I use cold chain to make better availability of produce to the stakeholders? I think that's being changed right now, right? I think, and it has really changed into 3 or 4 major eras, right? The first was where pre-geo days, where everything used to be done trying to figure out very point solutions of specific geography. And after geo days, when the data was being launched, data was available, it was all about networking sessions, networking or platforms for the industry. And with the UPI stack or the government stack coming into picture and the post-COVID supply chain reset, I think now the industry or the AgriTech is talking about, can I solve issues of drones? Can I solve issues of UAVs or new biotech solution, which is currently open? I think this is all going through it right now. And I think now the industry talks about cold chain food processing. I think so people are looking the farmer as an entity used to make production, but can we now look a farmer as an entity to enable me processing or manufacturing of produce, which was initially not being done by farmers, right? And what is also happening in the last 3-4 years, that the demand of the Indian consumer is also changing. I mean, people, even in smaller towns, villages, are now looking for more processed food or more manufactured food available, right? And that is where we see a huge gap right now. That's why I think a lot of new startups are going to come around it.
Yeah, it sounds like a century than a decade in terms of what all has happened. But yeah, great, good to see that. I think you are spot on, point solutions to more holistic solutions. And that's where I see a whole lot of opportunity for partnerships. You know, I think probably since I've seen other sectors also, one of the most collaborative ecosystem where I see startups partnering with other startups and of course with FPOs and village level entrepreneurs and R&D institutions. So thanks Jinesh for that. Onkar, coming to you. So on one side we have maybe 10,000 plus AgriTech startups, the number keep changing, but yeah, it's a large number. And on another side we have approximately 150 million farmers, though there is no census, but that's the number which keeps floating around. And I think the big sort of challenge is how to make this solution accessible to smallholder farmers. And that's where I think even AgriTech get lots of stake. Hey guys, you've done a great job, but are farmers using it? Are they paying for it? Are they adopting it? You being a bridge sort of organization, how do you see that?
So thanks Hemendra, for this wonderful question, because I mean this is something which is the first area of the sector and all need to reflect a lot upon it. I mean, so we, as you mentioned, we are trying to bridge the gap between the science and society. When it is about the AgriTech, we are trying to bridge the gap between the poverty and the farmer, technology and the farmer. And I mean, when we are describing here, these are big words or sentences only, but as Jinesh mentioned, it takes decades, it takes years and years. But the most important thing that I have experienced, or as an organization we have experienced, if you are very clear on your goal, your objective, what are you trying to do? If you are solving the problem of people and planet, if you are in business of creating the impact, solving the pressing challenges of the sector, definitely you will be able to make the impact and you will be able to scale. But between the idea and innovation, there is a long journey, and most of the startups burn out, and there are a lot of factors behind it. The most important factor is they need a lot of resources, they need a lot of intelligence, they need a lot of support, they need a lot of policy support, money across their journey. But when we talk about the investment piece particularly, I mean, there are multiple types of investors, we all are aware about it. But AgriTech is something which takes time, which has a huge gestation period. If we talk about the pharmaceutical or any kind of biological research or innovation only, it takes years and years. But is there any mainstream investor is ready to invest in that journey? There are few, but not much. So we need a lot of patient capital during that phase of the startup. There are a lot of startups who are still struggling to find the appropriate customers to deploy their MVPs with the real life customers and iterate. Because in some of the previous panels, I think one of the panelists mentioned that Indian agriculture changes after every 50 kilometer. Agroclimatic zone changes, the cropping pattern changes, everything changes. So your single product cannot work for the entire country or even for the entire state. If we talk about the UP itself, it is half of the Europe. But I think one important thing is while you have developed the product, you should have a very strong support mechanism which is helping you to deploy your technology at the ground and create very strong playbook and proof of concept, so that when you are reaching to the policy makers, when you are reaching to the further round of investment for the commercialization, they are excited about it. And you have significant evidences from the farmer sides as well. So I think these are few critical things that we have seen in the journey. Another important, since I mean the panel is focusing on the policy, so I would like to touch upon that piece also. I think we keep hearing about lot of policies for startups, but unfortunately when it is about business, then I think startups can tell it better, because some of the startups are also present here. It is not something which is very encouraging and helpful for them to grow as a business entities. They are treated similar as either corporate houses, and sometimes even policymakers treat them as college projects, not as a serious business. So I think, fortunately or unfortunately, agriculture is the state subject. So it varies state to state. If any state is very active in the technology like Telangana, they will definitely hold your hand. But if there are some states which are, I should not use the kind of word laggard, but if they are laggard, they will not give you the entry to create the impact. So I think on the policy side, we as an I would say forum need to create a strong buzz, so that the single window kind of policy could be created for startup in terms of ease of their businesses to create more impact at larger scale.
Thanks, Onkar. I think since you brought this issue of policy, I'll try to get Dr. Haragopal, and maybe Avi, you can also comment. You know, I think it's very important for policy to be synchronized with the innovations, right? I think one challenge we saw in fintech, you know, they did all kind of innovative products, and ultimately RBI came very hard, and a lot of those products became, you know, defunct overnight, impacting their business models and valuations. How do you see that in agriculture? You know, is policy in sync? Are state governments play a huge role? You know, I think probably more than central government in many cases. So maybe you can give a ecosystem perspective, Dr. Gopal, and Avi, you can give a startup perspective. How do you see policy environment as of now for AgriTech?
Thanks, Mathur, and thanks, Asojam, for having me here. I am from NABCONS, which is 100% owned subsidiary of NABARD. I'm heading that as Managing Director. If you see this entire ecosystem of the AgriTech, I mean, definitely they are playing critical role in meeting the food security requirements. I can say that because I have been in this system for the last 30 years, having studied my master's and PhD in agricultural sciences from IRA. So I know entire ecosystem since my college days, and with 30 years experience in NABARD. So from the perspective of the startups, I mean, I was asked to specifically on startups. NABARD has been funding startups for a long period. We have our own subsidiary called NAB Ventures. And in fact, we even invested in the equity of the Omnivore and such. So many startups in the last 3-4 years. It's a 600 crore alternative investment fund. And then now Government of India has, through budget announcement, has asked us to come out with AgriSure. So that has been launched by Honorable Agriculture Minister. And it's a 750 crore fund, 250 crore from NABARD, 250 crore from the government of India, and then the 250 crores from the institutional investors. So this fund has the advantage of both the fund of funds, which will be given to the bigger funds, as well as direct lending to the in terms of equity and debt for another 300 crores. So from that perspective, the startup ecosystem is getting some support from NABARD in the bigger ecosystem. But from the startup, if I step into the startups, and there is definitely a lot has to be done. I have seen today morning also people talking about the challenges they are facing from the funding to, and that is how we have told the bankers to look at startups with a different lens, come out with different policies, not insisting for any security and all, collateral security. So some of the banks have come out, some of the banks have come out with exclusive startup funding branches. So that is how the entire ecosystem is developing. From the farmer perspective, of course, I mean, there is a long way to go. A trust deficit is still there. I mean, because when private players go to the farmers directly, it becomes difficult to penetrate. And unless the startups have the business model and the commercial viability, so it will be difficult for them to sustain as well. So in that context, NABARD is also has created incubation centers. We have funded 10 incubation centers across India, and we have come out with another fund called in the Death Valley stage of the startups, because they need some kind of support. So we are also funding such kind of startups through these incubation centers with a grant support. I mean, this is a grant from NABARD to the incubation center, and incubation center in turn invests in the startup. So that is how NABARD has been funding. From the farmers, of course, I mean, there is a gap. So many digital platforms have come up. ONDC is one such platform, and along with the e-commerce platforms, we are trying to onboard and the FPOs as well as other startups linkage into these platforms, so that the farmers gain the benefit and access to the market.
Thanks, Avi.
Hi everyone. First of all, thank you SOCHM for having me here and making me one of the voice of one of the 10,000 startups that Hemendra mentioned about. Before I try to address the policy question, I just want to spend a minute on what we do and why is it even important to hear our perspective in this ecosystem. So I started a company in the agri input space by the name Agrim back in 2020. So I'm a fairly new entrant into this sector, and again very happy to be part of such an esteemed group. But as an outsider, I have the advantage of bringing in some fresh perspectives on how I view this sector versus some of the sectors that I have seen in my past lives, and I have been a 2-time entrepreneur before this. We first of all, why we do what we do. We are trying to build an e-commerce platform for agri input retailers across the country. Why did we think of building that platform in the first place? A lot of the panelists in the earlier sessions hinted upon the amazing innovations that they have been doing in various fields, right, from biologicals to drones to new chemistries and all of that. But there was very little talk about how does that innovation get disseminated? How does that innovation get distributed in the hands of the retailers or the farmers which are located in very deep nooks and corners of the country? If I draw a leaf from some of the greatest innovations that India has done, let's say UPI or the cost of data that we have today, one pivotal role that has been played in making those successful is reducing the cost of distribution. So we have built a 100% technology-led platform where we use technology to bring this cost of distribution down. That is, of course, just the start of the problem statement. We are not, because we have to pick a problem statement to start building in this ecosystem. Philosophically, we are a very big believer of the digital agriculture and the Viksit Bharat mission that is there, and we are building this company keeping in mind a decadal view, at least from here. So the idea is today, when most of the big and small companies end up spending anywhere between 50 to 70% of the product value on distribution, can technology play a role in bringing that down and let's say improve the productivity, yield or income in the hands of the retailer from that perspective. Once we started doing that, we realized that this became a powerful bridge to people to have NBFCs or formal banking institutions lend to these retailers. So that was an eye-opener, and in fact, whatever retailer financing relationships we have opened, we realized that about 50% of those relationships are first-time credit customers in terms of formal lending. So we saw that. Then, we, over the lifetime, we have served about 55,000 retailers, delivered 5 lakh orders in those locations, 60% of which are categorized as typically non-serviceable or out of delivery area locations in logistics parlance. So we have built distribution in that nook and corner of the country. And as a result, we started getting people to come on our platform and start building data. So the first panelist from EY, he talked about building a digital public infrastructure for farmers, which can be utilized across the platform for various activities. We are building an equivalent of that at the retailer level. And that requires distribution, that requires data points, which we have been fortunate enough to start gathering now. With that in mind, we feel that it is really important to solve this piece of the puzzle as well for agriculture to move forward. Coming to the subject of policy and how we view it, policy in agriculture, it is naturally a multi-stakeholder subject. There is involvement from central government, state government, manufacturers, distributors, farmers. While the laws have been drafted, let's say some of the laws have been drafted 50 years ago, right? When e-commerce didn't exist, digital distribution didn't exist, they were all set with the right intent. But now the laws need to accelerate to use some of the digital mediums available at hand to make those efficient as well, versus making it a very high cost of compliance or a very high cost of innovation. If the laws and all the stakeholders within this ecosystem, they start collaborating and using technologies, then the purpose will get accomplished, which is to get quality product in the hands of the farmers at a fraction of the cost at which it is happening today.
Thanks, Avi, for articulating, and I request ASSOCHAM to take the cause for not just Agrim, but there are so many startups struggle with lack of clarity of laws. Everyone interprets according to them, and I think like what we have done in passports and driving license, I think similar transparency we need, and a lot of licensing that happens on the agri-input side. So request ASSOCHAM team to please work with us.
If I could just add a very small point. I mean, we use all the digital public infrastructure stacks built by the government. So today, if I have to verify that somebody is a valid retailer, I would go and use government's GST stack. I would go and use government's Udyam stack. And frankly, a lot of stacks that government has built and opened to the public. Agri-inputs should also take a leaf out of that, where if somebody has to access the license of any channel participant, any manufacturer, then that stack should be made available to the public in a similar fashion, right? Via the API routes or whatever route is fit and compliant within the laws of the country.
Absolutely. Thanks, Avi. Gaurav, sorry. Coming to you, we all know the job Invest India has done in attracting capital, especially for startups. And of course, India has seen one of the best decade when it comes to innovation, startup promotion, etc. And you played a pivotal role. I think one challenge that we see in AgriTech, if you look at, for example, e-commerce, fintech, consumer internet, SaaS, most of those sectors have attracted capital in excess of 30, 40, $50 billion cumulatively over the last 10, 15 years. AgriTech, we are at about $4.5 billion. And I think for disruption to happen, for mass adoption by farmers to happen, we need far more capital. not just venture capital and high risk capital, but also affordable debt and blended finance and grants and all kind of support. How do you see the role of Invest India, especially this sector being one of the core sectors for the economy? What kind of role Invest India can play in getting more capital, especially for the innovators in the ecosystem?
Sure. Thanks, Hemendra, and thank you, SHM, for inviting me here today. So AgriTech has been a very strategic sector for the country. Considering agriculture has been the backbone of the country's economy for several decades now, and AgriTech is the way forward. So it is a strategic sector for us as well. Now, talking about the kind of support that Invest India provides to AgriTech, especially calling startups, our key mandate has been to work with companies, entrepreneurs, and startups, facilitating their market entry, facilitating the execution of their plans, and resolving their issues and concerns. So this is from the industry side. So I'll talk first about the industry side. So how we work with either companies or entrepreneurs or startups is helping them evaluate what is the market opportunity for the product that they're trying to bring in, helping them navigate through the Indian ecosystem, be it the central ecosystem or the state ecosystem. That would include what are the various schemes, regulations, and incentives that could be applicable for their projects, making introductions for them with either the government at the center or the state level, research, academia, industry, and other institutions that are required, to the execution level where they require approvals and clearances for executing their projects, be it from the central level or the state level, to a point where any policy advocacy is required. So especially for the startup case where they need changes in policy at the central, at the state level in terms of getting access to more capital, in terms of ease of doing business. So all of that is basis our interaction with the industry and startups, whatever sessions we get. Our job is to take that to the government and of course take their views as well and try and come to a consensus where something could be done in terms of an initiative or a policy roadmap that could be created. Now this is one part where we are playing the role of a facilitator for any organization, a company, industry or startup or an innovator to help them execute. The other part of the puzzle, which is capital, which is a very significant one. So on one side, we've been working with the foreign investment funds, be it sovereign wealth funds or FIIs or other institutions, especially countries such as the Middle Eastern countries, which are especially looking for investments in India in the agri and food sector. So those are some of the conversations that we are already doing. We've already introduced some of the Indian companies and entrepreneurs with them as well. They're evaluating some of those projects. And as and when those conversations take forward, some of them should also materialize. The second part is because in AgriTech, you would majorly see it is majorly dominated by startups, right? That becomes a challenge to access, capital because startups don't have, maybe collaterals to keep for, availing debt, or maybe they don't have the kind of resources to guide them on where they can access capital from. So wherever we can through our partners, be it associations or be it in incubators or accelerators, we are trying to provide that support as well. There are various schemes from the government as well, which are either capex subsidies, capital grants that are available for creation of infrastructure at the farm gate level or post-harvest infrastructure as well. And there are also schemes which reduce the cost of capital. And I think there's not much, awareness about these schemes as well. So while we interact with these entrepreneurs and startups, we also help them navigate through these schemes and policies which they can avail, both from the central government as well as the state government. Now this is one part of our mandate which we work with the industry. The second part is where we work with the government. So government is also very proactive in terms of understanding the industry issues and see if there are actually interventions required to make the Indian industry competitive across all sectors. And AgriTech again is a focus sector. So we undertake organizing several roundtables and discussion points with the industry and the policymakers to understand what is the need of the industry. And then basis the feedback that we receive from the industry, we consult various other stakeholders across the central government departments and the state government departments to come up with some possible interventions at the policy or incentives level that could be done. Now, this is happening across all sectors, across all different ministries and states as well. So, any kind of suggestions or feedback that could come through us, through the industry association, SOCHM, or any of our partners, we would love to discuss and take it up with the relevant stakeholders.
Thanks, Gaurav. I'm sure we'll approach you with a long list. Lakshmi, sorry for keep you waiting. I think one big thing if you look at Indian AgriTech, since a lot of these started by tech entrepreneurs, it continues to be digital tech in some ways, and we know our country's strength in IT services and products. But I think over a period of time, there's a realization that we also need products. We need, let's say, biofertilizers, biostimulants. We need mechanization oriented products. We need some more deep tech kind of stuff for this sector to take to another level. And I think a lot of these technologies are lying somewhere, either in the research institutions, universities, right? So I think coming from you, the role that NRDC or some of the other R&D institutions can play in making those solutions available to these innovators who can potentially take it to the farmers. So how do you see that?
Thank you, Ashokam, for giving us this opportunity for being here. First of all, let me briefly mention what is the role and activities of NRDC. NRDC is a technology transfer company under the Ministry of Science and Technology. We source technologies from R&D institutions and we transfer them to the industries. This is our core mandate of the corporation. In the process, as you are aware, the technology what is being sourced from R&D institutions are at very, very preliminary levels. There is a need for infusing more funds for taking up or scaling it up to the level of adoption by the industry. So whatever are these intervening steps that are required, that is being taken care by NRDC in the form of providing funds or in the form of maturing these technologies with value additions. For example, if there is a technology that is developed at a bench scale, it requires to be scaled up. So how do we do it? So there is a dedicated platforms of software called ChemCAD, if it is a chemical technology, where we use these simulation softwares and scale it up to the level of adoption by the industry. And during this process, when the scaling up is done and the process is stabilized on the software platform, there is at a click of a button, you can get the specification of the plant at which you are going to establish. For example, if it is a 5 kg per day plant which the lab has established, you need to produce 1000 kgs. So for that, this kind of platforms are being made available by NRDC. So these are some of the value additions that we do. And we also do take up the market surveys for the introduction of new technologies. See, when there is a technology which is new, the industry is not aware. So there is a need to make this technology made aware to the industry. And industry in further has to explore its probable customers who are going to be buyers. It could be a farmer, it could be an industry consumer. So for that, there is a need for doing market surveys. So that kind of value addition is also being done by NRDC. All these kind of value additions which are required for maturing a technology is being taken up by NRDC for commercializing the technology once industry shows interest for absorbing these technologies. So in the process, we do identify a lot of technologies. Of course, I'll be very bold enough to tell that the maximum number of technologies that are being licensed by NRDC are in the agriculture sector. Agriculture, chemicals, these are the input, agri-input sector is the place where we have been very successful in the area of sericulture, horticulture, agriculture. All these are sectors where we have been very successful in licensing technologies. The technologies have reached the end customer of the farmers. So this is how we have been progressing of how the technologies behave. And of course, in the developing the startup ecosystem, we do have central sector schemes like Mr. Gaurav was telling. So we do provide grants for startups to take the technology levels from TRL 2 to 4 to take it to 6 to 8, the valley of death, we have been discussing in the morning sessions. The valley of death is the place where maximum funding needs to be infused. So that we are providing, but of course the amount of fund available is very small. As of now, we are supporting about 13 projects in the country. 13 projects for a nation of such a big magnitude is very small. Though we have finalized this proof of concept, the scheme is working fantastic. We have got huge responses from the startup community for this fund. We give a grant of up to 1 crore in the first phase to take it to level to 6 to 8. And further, once the technology is matured enough for commercialization, there is another 1 crore given to the startup against equity. So total of 2 crores are available. But of course, the quantum of funds are very small. So we are requesting the donor ministry or DSIR for enhancing this fund allocation so that we will be able to cater to a larger sector of the startups, including in this funding, even precision agriculture is one of the key sector in which we are trying to promote technologies under this TDVC scheme, Technology Development, Validation and Commercialization Scheme. So
Thanks, Lakshmi. This is fantastic.
Yes.
I think most of us were not aware of the work that you are doing. So that's
We
great.
are partnered even with NABCONS for.
Thanks.
Yes, we are collaborating with them. We are collaborating with SIDBI to get more and more funds for our
Sure.
startups.
Oh, definitely. I think next question is to Jinesh, and we'll let him go. Otherwise, he'll miss his flight. So, Jinesh, the question is, of course, we need more capital. We also, going forward, need to demonstrate some exits in the sector. But for that, we need more investor confidence, And I think what are those 1 or 2 things that need to change to attract more capital, especially, let's say, late-stage capital or pre-IPO capital, which can potentially provide exits to early-stage funds like you?
Thanks, Hemendra. Look, I think broadly what we are seeing that there is an inherent increase in the investor confidence, while not as commensurate to the other sectors like AI or new deep tech, because agriculture by nature is a very dry subject, right? I mean, from an investor's perspective, it takes time to scale up. It's also a non-glamorous sector, right? So you have inherent issues around it. At the same time, there is a perception that there is a huge intervention by the political class of people, and the industry also is not willing to accommodate any new change, because they all talk about saying, how do I get my subsidies directly to me, my own license or my area of protection, right? And the industry per se has not really evolved in the last 10, 15 years as compared to what the other industries have evolved. So I think it's an inherent change around it, but I think things are looking better. We see more investors, at least in the early stage, looking at AgriTech, but yeah, late stage funds, a larger pool of capital, I think is a tough challenge, right? I mean, I think we have more capital coming from international pool of capital rather than domestic pool of capital, because I think the domestic pool of capital is too impatient about the scale of scaling agriculture. Agriculture, unlike other sector, needs more time, right? Because in a deep tech setup, you can do 5 transactions or 500 transactions every day. If things don't work today, it will work. You go attempt tomorrow. But in case of agriculture, if you lose one crop season, you lose the crop season, right? It takes time, right? So, but the Indian ecosystem saying, if you talk with any Indian family offices or Indian banks or Indian institutions which wants to give VC money, I mean, they believe 7-year fund, 8-year fund is a big, long tenure fund. But if you speak to global investors, they are okay to give 12-year fund, 15 years fund, because they really understand that some of the sectors take time. I think the sector needs time, right? So, unfortunately, there is inherent challenge within the way Indian ecosystem is working around it. I don't know whether even SIDBI would even give a 15-year fund to anyone, right? But if you speak to a global investors like IFC, they are willing to give a 15-year fund. I mean, that's an inherent gap within what we have it. Hopefully, I think we believe that more and more international investors are looking at the Indian ecosystem, the Indian market opportunity. I think that's what's going to look around it. But I think my sense is that Indian investors will lose that bus. I mean, that's my sense.
No, absolutely. I think for unlocking value, I don't know how many sectors can give returns in 5, 7, 8 years, which a lot of LPs look for. But frankly, to unlock value, you need 10-year, 15-year, 20-year fund maybe. Look at climate tech. That probably takes much more time to mature. But thanks very much, and we'll let you go. I know you have a flight to catch.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry for leaving the panel
thank
up. So thanks.
Okay, so my next question is probably Onkar and Dr. Haragopal, both of you can answer. Is again on partnerships, especially financial institutions like NABARD, which is the apex institution in the country. And of course, you've been supporting not just incubators, but startups directly as well. And organizations like Social Alpha, which has such strong understanding of the rural landscape, grassroots, farmers. How can you play a very, I would say, pivotal role in forging this partnership, especially for startups, who find very tough to deal directly with farmers for multiple reasons?
I think, so partnership and collaboration is one of the most essential element to grow for startups or for any one of us. I mean, the instance that we have seen changing in last few years, when we talk about the philanthropic organizations or the NGOs, generally their developmental approach was very much charity based kind of model. But now they are also, started understanding that that model will not bring sustainability or not allow them to withdraw from the area after doing the work which they have envisioned for that area. So I think educating them, engaging them, and showing them the good results through more and more pilots or deployment. So that is the one partnership, because earlier these non-profit sectors are very important, I would say, platforms for the AgriTech startups to reach at the scale. Apart from that, I think FPOs are also one of the important channels to connect them to the last mile, as well as also become the sales and distribution networks for them. So like Avi mentioned, distribution, sometimes your product is very good, but your distribution is the biggest problem, because the mainstream distributor is not much attracted with your product. So you have to opt a PO kind of route. They will see some skin in the game and they will definitely collaborate with you. I think on the CSR ecosystem side, earlier, as per my limited knowledge, they were very much project focused. I mean, ये कर दिया, ये result आ गया, मेरी company के पास कर दिया. But now I think CSR focus is also shifting. They have started calculating the sustainability and return on investment which they are making. So they have also started investing significantly on the AgriTech base. So like we work with some large national and international foundation like Gates Foundation, IKEA Foundation, Tata Trust in India. They also understand that if if technology will not reach to the last mile, farmers will not become the enable and empower. Another aspect, the most important thing is, I think this ecosystem is definitely bringing a lot of patient capital and support for creating the playbook. But I think the mainstream finance, so like sir mentioned, with support of NABARD, with support of other government program, lot of blended financing kind of supports which are coming for startups as well as for the end consumers, because there are multiple solutions when you are, which are still not affordable for smallholder farmers. And 85% of the farming community belongs to that category. So if you want to cater them, if we want to create the impact on them, then definitely we have to unlock the mainstream finance, mainstream banks, and they have to productize these solutions and offer, these solutions to them through their lending model. So I think that some move has happened, but I think there is a lot of collaboration which is yet to happen. And if all these things come together, I think we would be able to see a lot of changes in this decade actually.
Great.
So, the government of India has come out with the digital agriculture mission, and then digitalization of land records, digitization of the digital crop survey and soil health, and also the AgriTech, the collaboration of public and private sector. So all this is happening for strengthening the DBT. So NABCONS also, we are working with the government, and in fact, in Kerala, this is the first of its kind. We have developed Kathir, that is Kerala Krishi Hub, wherein all the layers in the AgriStack were tried to be built in, and a mobile app has been developed for the Kerala government along with one of the partners based in Hyderabad. Similarly, we are also doing the dairy ERP solutions on SaaS model, and then that has been done in some of the cooperatives and dairy private sector units in Karnataka and Bihar. And another important thing is that NABCONS has developed, we have done the geotagging of 1.1 lakh dry and wet storage, cold storage and dry storage across India. And that database is already with us. And then now, right now we are developing dynamic Kisan Bandar application, wherein we wanted to help the farmers through a mobile app that what is the nearest warehouse that is available to him, and not only the nearest warehouse, but what kind of capacity is available, what kind of commodities can be stored. So this will become a part of one of the layers in the AgriStack at the national level. WDRA is working with us, and the Minister of Agriculture is working with us. And besides this, we are also monitoring the water bodies and all, especially in Tamil Nadu and Bihar. We have done a lot of work with the governments through AI models and also helping the governments in protecting the water bodies and also floods and all. And recently we are doing with one of the major assignment, this is again the technology based, because the Karnataka government, it has been approved by the cabinet, and that the government has partnered with NABCONS. This is where the farmers are being helped in monetizing the carbon sequestered in their own plants, because finally any effort that is being done is to either to increase the yield at the farmer's level or to increase the income level of the farmer. But here there is a case where the farmers who are growing horticulture crops and other agroforestry models, they are not aware that the carbon sequestered can be monetized. So we have tied up with, because Rabobank is also a DFI like NABARD in India, so we have partnered with them, and then we are helping the farmers in monetizing the carbon removal units, and that we are doing through platforms, AI images and ground truthing. And we found that at least 2 to 3 CRUs are being produced in the plantations, and then there is nothing that cash outflow from the government nor from the farmer. It is only the 80% of the amount. Right now 1 CRU is around 40 euros or so. So that money is being given to the farmers. It's a pilot, and we will be going back to the Niti Aayog. Already we made presentations to Niti Aayog, and then it will be scaled up at national level. Like that, so many initiatives NABCONS is taking up in digital space. Of course, along with the startups, so many startups who have been working, and the support mechanism that is available from the NABARD, as I said, and ONDC. NABARD also invested in ONDC, because there is a platform which the government of India has promoted, and then we are working with ONDC and helping all the FPOs and other artisans to onboard, and that requires a lot of capacity building at these farmers level and FPO level and artisan level, right from catalog to display, and then how to do on digital platform sales. So all that kind of lot of, in terms of bookkeeping, everything has to be taught to these people. So that capacity building programs are happening across India, and we have onboarded large number of FPOs and artisans into the ONDC platform. And we are also simultaneously working with other e-commerce platforms, penetration at the FPO level. Thank you.
Thanks. No, this is all good news. Warehouse tech, water tech, carbon trades, so much happening. So I think Tanuja is telling me that we need to conclude. So I'll have one quick question for three panelists. Maybe Avi, one quick question to you. You talked about digitization of input supply chain. Just give a sense, are retailers ready for it? Are farmers ready to adopt it? And can it solve bigger challenges? Like spurious products are so common in agri-input space. Can it potentially solve for it, right? A lot of manufacturers don't get farmer feedback because there are so many layers in between. So do you see these things changing with the digitization?
Absolutely. In fact, this is one of the areas that has positively surprised us. So today, our customer side app has over 1 lakh installs. It has a Google Play Store rating of 4.3. We do not do a single rupee worth of cash transaction in our company. Everything that happens, it happens through digital mediums. It is also happening without feet on street for sales. So imagine this. Most of us have looked at this ecosystem or any B2B supply chain for that matter. The demand generation has always been led by people who visit the shops, sit with them and then get the demand, right? That has always been the traditional model. We are turning the model on its head where the customer is coming, browsing the catalog, spending time on the app, paying the money upfront, and then booking the order, and there is no digital, there's no cash transaction, right? So from my perspective, I could not be more optimistic about this. I do not know, which data points may lead us to believe that these guys are not ready for it. Whether I look at their footprint on social media, whether I look at their footprint on UPI, or on any of the new age digital adoptions, I feel extremely confident about this. At least at the retailer level where we operate, that is my view. Answering your second part of the question, which is, see, from our perspective, we don't have anybody representing us at the retailer shop. So if somebody even believes that the material sold on our platform is not up to the mark in terms of quality, that kills our business, right? So from a mission statement point of view, we could not be more aligned in solving this problem. We have evaluated all the various mechanisms that manufacturing companies have brought into the ecosystem, and the most leading one seems to be scanning of the QR code, which, as you pointed out, it requires scanning at 6 or 7 different locations for complete traceability of the material, right? With us, we have covered most of the supply chain already because we are directly supplying the material to the retailer. So I have complete traceability of what is moving where. And then if companies open up their APIs to us, we can tell them, what's happening. So somebody in the panel said that for the last 20 years, we have been discussing the same 3 problems, right? Quality, technology, and the likes. I feel the initial signs are that we do have some of these answers. So, we would love to collaborate and solve these problems.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. Korak, very quick one from you. So India is among the top 3 agri-tech ecosystems in the world. I think after US, Israel, we probably one of the largest. How do we consolidate this position and become a source of innovation for rest of the world? Do we have that opportunity?
I think yes, and the time is right now that we need to focus on this important piece of the puzzle. So the first thing that I would say is commercialization of innovations. So the innovations that are happening across the country, across sectors, that needs to be commercialized, right? Both with support of the industry as well as the government. There are multiple mechanisms available, both from the government as well as the industry side. It is only that, startups and innovators need to be more aware. Recently, there's also a new fund that has been announced by the Government of India, similar to the Startup India Fund of Funds. Similarly, a innovation-driven fund of 1 lakh crores has been announced called the RDI scheme, and digital agriculture is an important pillar which will be focused during this scheme. And this scheme would focus on lowering the cost of capital as well as infusion of equity in these startups. The second part I would say is public-private partnerships that need to grow. So with the government providing support in terms of policy and incentives, industry needs to come together and provide market access and opportunities to AgriTech startups. And the third I would say, which is most important, and you would see especially in the global market, creation of brand India for our products. And that brand should synchronize with trust and quality of our products globally. And I think these three things, if we focus on, would be really helpful.
Right, thanks. Lakshmi, last question to you, and this is on behalf of all the startups.
Okay.
How do they collaborate with NRDC? You are doing some fantastic job. What is the mechanism to work with you?
Sure. See, we do have a small startup incubation center in our headquarters. If startups would like to collaborate with us or join us as an incubator, they are most welcome, either physically or if they wish to join us virtually, they can join us virtually also. And just about a week back, there was a scheme which was sanctioned to NRDC. It's called TTFC, Technology Transfer Facilitation Center, from the MSME, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, wherein the startups or the MSMEs who are availing technologies from any national lab, they are given a subsidy of 70% of the license fee from the government. So it's reimbursed. So there is a ceiling of up to 10 lakhs for the startups and MSMEs. Those who wish to avail technologies from any national lab can apply for the portal on MSME and choose NRDC as one of the beneficiary, the implementing agency, and we will process it and get the money released within a week. So this is one of the schemes recently sanctioned to NRDC. Of course, in addition to NRDC, we have other stakeholders, CSR labs also have been sanctioned this scheme. So even people who are availing technologies from CSR labs can also approach the CSR labs for getting the reimbursement of this fund which they use for acquiring the technologies. So this way, the startups can get enrolled with us and get incubated or mentored through NRDC.
Thank you. That's music to the ears. Tanuja, do we have time for questions or should we wrap up? Are there any questions in the room? Maybe one or two questions? Yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
Mike.
And can you be brief and just introduce yourself?
Sir, namaskar. I am Dr. Jagdish Shivahari, professor and ex-scientist ISRO. Sir, I have a general question. How is the implement strategy of AgriTech 3.0 different than previous ones in terms of investment, post-production and market-linked challenges?
I think, so 3.0, I'm not sure whether we call it 3.0 or 4.0 or 2.0. See, this is a problem statement that everybody has to solve from all the stakeholder side. Yes, we all understand what are the critical challenges in terms of awareness, in terms of access to capital, in terms of backward linkages, right? In terms of infrastructure. You look at the Indian agriculture, India has been the leading producer of several agri-food commodities on the raw material side. There is infrastructure that is being built up. However, still we have several billions of post-harvest losses, right? So that's one critical area where the government is focusing and wants to build up that post-harvest infrastructure as well. That would lead to one, industry working with farmers, increasing their income. Secondly, quality products being made. Third, reduction of losses. And fourth, increase in the monetary value of Indian exports. If you look at the export profile of agri-food products in India, you would see it majorly it is dominated by fresh products. Valued products only contribute about 20%. So that is the key area that is being focused upon. You compare India with any other key countries in ASEAN, small countries, but agri-food portfolio amounts to much, much larger monetary share. So I think these are some of the key areas that we could be looking at.
I can just add my 2 cents. So if you look at last 15, 20 years of AgriTech, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, I think a lot of digitization innovations were led by the startups, and it will continue like that. But I would say the role of government, especially by preparing this digital public stack, will become more and more critical. And that will hopefully reduce the transactional cost of dealing with farmers. Today also AgriTech is largely B2B. There are very few models which are direct to farmer. I think with this mass level digitization, probably unprecedented that what we have seen in the history of Indian agriculture, can make a lot of farmer-centric solution possible, economically possible. Last 2 questions, I know.
Hi, my name is Umang Pathak. I'm a lawyer. My firm ESG Advisory basically works both on corporate and financial funds investor side to bring, requirement to resources, the whole sustainability transition, as you may call it. We work a lot with, the latest carbon projects. So a lot of startups have started doing carbon credit structuring around agri and agro produce or biomass and everything. So my question is the systemic issue that, we are all realizing it is still, agri industry is not really like a corporate in any other sector. And there's a lot of hand holding which is required. India has set up its own carbon compliance market. We have signed an MOU with Japan to fund technology which sequesters carbon. What I'm missing is how does this come together? Everything is in silos in different places. So is there a mechanism of, bringing impactful agri models backed by sovereign, systems in carbon markets or funds or, to attract basically global capital towards this?
Carbon market is totally, different subject. Right now in India, we are still working on VCM, voluntary carbon model markets. So there is a long way to go. Many companies are coming up because finally all this is happening to help the farmers to enhance their income. So carbon credits, whether it is alternative wet and dry method in paddy or any other crop, what many of the players right now working with the farmers, a lot of integration has to happen, and then probably the digital stack, what we are talking about, agri stack, so that will be in the AgriTech 3.0 we are looking at, that will stabilize, and probably most of the stakeholders will be onboarded, and then even the carbon credit players also will be there. We are also looking at, we are working with the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture, trying to develop a platform wherein all these players can be brought in. So proposal is going on along with the government. NABARD is going to play a key role in this particular. Thank you.
I think one thing I can add, we need to somehow demonstrate that the benefit of carbon credit accrues to the farmer. I think that to me is the missing link. Yeah, so there has to be fair distribution of economics. That's probably need to be established. I think one last question.
Hello, hi. I'm Shubhojit. I'm associated with a public policy consulting firm called Chase Advisors. My question is to Abhi. Abhi, you mentioned no feet on street model and a digital first model for your agri startup. I wanted to understand how are you dealing with promotion, demonstration, and the cash conversion cycle issues or the debt recovery issues through your platform?
Right. So the first part of it is around promotions, right? I think our philosophy as a distribution company has been that a lot of the manufacturers or the original innovators, they have deployed feet on street for product demonstrations, and that information is already reaching the last mile, which is in terms of the farmers. We are taking the other complementary bit of that problem, which is how do we make the distribution accessible, how do we make it low cost, and how do we make sure that every person who wants that product is able to get their hands on distribution. In that process, as you keep building distribution and as trust in the ecosystem builds up, you are also able to influence demand generation, which is through digital product demonstrations. So now we have companies approaching us who want us to basically showcase the benefits of the products. They want us to showcase the new chemistries that have come into the ecosystem, for a simple reason that in the entire chain of ecosystem today, nobody is doing a great job at educating the retailer on the benefits of any product which comes out in the market. Everybody is either demonstrating to the farmer or spending a lot of time with the distributor. But the chain is missing. We bridge that gap. So that is the first part of your question. And this is similar to if you try to draw parallels from any other ecosystem in e-commerce. When, let's say, the giants, right, when Amazon and Flipkart came into the picture, you did not expect OnePlus to go exclusively on Amazon or exclusively on Flipkart, right? So first the trust got built up and then the demand generation bit got built up. In terms of the cash conversion cycle, our thesis, and I think some people in the room will disagree with this, but our thesis is that there is a decent portion of purchases at the retailer level which happens through the cash economy. And our thesis is very simple around it. Credit in any ecosystem requires two principles. One is ability to underwrite somebody and ability to assess their intent to repay. The intent to repay is a function of how frequently am I transacting with the customer. So if I was building a B2B company in FMCG or in pharma, I would not expect cash payments because these retailers are ordering once every day or sometimes even twice every day. But that is not what is happening in the agri inputs ecosystem. The frequency of ordering is much lesser. So the dissemination of credit is not happening as we see it. The flip side of this obviously is that a lot of manufacturers are having to underwrite credit between the manufacturer and the distribution chain. But I feel that there is not great visibility of how much of that credit is flowing down from distributors to the retailers. And at least we have witnessed over the last 6.5 years that there is a very big cash economy at play if you focus on the agri input retailer. So from our perspective, there is no sort of bad debt or cash conversion cycle challenges that we have seen in our business.
Thank you. I know there are more questions in the room, but probably we'll take it offline. We've also taken the liberty of stretching it by 15-20 minutes, being the last panel. So anyway, thanks to all the panelists for some really wonderful insights. Thank you very much. And thanks to all the audience. Thanks for your patient listening. Thank you very much.
Please give a round of applause to our speakers on stage. I request all of you to please gather in front of the tables for a group photograph. With that, we come to the close of AgriTech 3.0 Smart Agriculture for Viksit Bharat, brought to you by ASSOCHAM. I would like to thank all our speakers for taking the time to come here and sharing their knowledge with the audience, and all the delegates for their presence and participation too. We will be serving high tea, so please help yourself to a cup of tea or coffee which is being served in the food area. Thank you all for coming. Goodbye.